Welcome back to another episode of Home Service Headquarters. Today we welcome on CJ Kortes of Outlaunch Marketing. CJ is a service business marketing expert who shares tips from website design, what should be on your website, and talks about the difference between SEO and even AI search optimization. Hop into the interview to hear all things service business marketing. Welcome back to another episode of Home Service Headquarters. Today I get the chance to chat with CJ Kortes of Outlaunch Marketing. CJ, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Jack. How are you?
I'm great. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. A little peek behind the curtain. CJ and I are both in our houses with sleeping babies. So if we start to whisper or anything crazy like that, we have good reason for it. And if we look a little tired, there's also a good reason for that. So I appreciate you moving things around and doing this with me today.
No problem. No
All
problem.
right. Let's get into a quick personal background history, and then let's segue that into kind of Outlaunch history. I know you guys have been around for a little while. Then maybe take us through the story of Outlaunch as well.
All right. Well, let's see. I'll go way back, but I'll try to speed up kind of quickly. I was always into film, so I went to film school because I like to write and direct.
Sure.
I never really was the one who was the best at all the individual deals, but I like to come up with the idea, pull the team together, execute, and basically direct the story. So I was at film school, and it was in Savannah, Georgia, and it's like the third or fourth largest St. Patrick's Day event in the U.S. So we're at St. Patrick's Day, and this guy's hawking T-shirts. And the first thing I thought was, I can make money doing that. What am I doing out here drinking? I should be hawking T-shirts. So next year I printed up T-shirts and then was like, I do not like selling these T-shirts on the street. So it's like, why don't I come up with a clothing brand? So I'm at school for film, and in the meantime, I'm just kind of having fun coming up with ideas. So I printed up some T-shirts, tried to sell those. Man, it was difficult. I get on this movie set, and while I'm on the movie set, I realized two things. One, that the only way to become a director is just start directing. You're never going to work your way up. Everyone else was just like careers trying to get their way up, and they're just stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And two, a movie is like a business. Everything was just, it's like its own franchise. It is its own franchise. And I was like, man, business is fun. I pull people together, I direct them. It's just like directing.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't I start a business so that I could fund all my future, movie projects? So again, doing the T-shirts, started a web design company because I needed a website to run my T-shirts, and I thought that was cool. Next thing you know, I'm in business, and I'm in the web design business, and it was just so much harder than I thought it would be. But it was also fun because it's art and creative. So fast forward, it's been 15 years. The website company had to turn into an SEO company because at the time, 15, 20 years ago, the Google was, existed, but it was different than now. You could sell websites and people weren't talking about SEO. So, now all of a sudden people are talking about SEO. This is again 15 years ago. And I start losing websites to people who are doing SEO.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do websites and SEO. So we've been spending 15 years, 16 years specifically doing websites and SEO to get those to the top of Google. In that whole mix, pay-per-click comes involved. But ultimately, it's just all marketing. So that's kind of my long business story of how I went from directing to business to web design business to SEO business. And now it's kind of, marketing specialist, so to speak.
Sure. That's amazing. Obviously, I know you said earlier, you don't want to spend the whole time talking about your story, but that is a very cool story to start in film school, having a good time, T-shirts, and it kind of meandering into what you're doing now. There weren't any, major jumps or twists or turns, but, 15, 20 years just from where you were at now to marketing.
Everything was just like a little turn. I'm doing this, and then it turned me that direction, and then it turned me that direction. But in a way, it all related.
Mm-hmm.
It was all some form of pulling people together and building these teams, getting them excited and pumped up. I remember I worked in the restaurant industry while in college, and I had the T-shirt line. It was called "Wear the Cause," and I remember I'd go to work, and all the other employees would walk into work and be like, "CJ, wear the cause." And I was like, man, I'm really getting people excited about stuff. But one of the things that I've noticed the entire time, is that right out the gate, it seems like it's fun, and it seems like it's going to be this wonderful thing, which in a way it is. It's not like business isn't fun and it's not this great thing. But what was fun in college turned to like, wow, this is real and this is
Hmm.
hard. And business has never been easy. It's never been easier since. I've gotten smarter and made better decisions since,
Hmm.
but it's never been easier since day one. And I
Sure.
think that's actually probably what motivates me the most, is that the minute I started again hawking those t-shirts on the street and saying like, wait, this is difficult,
Yeah.
like, do they like my product? Do I like selling it? Do I like talking to people about it? How is there another way to reach them? And those questions still come up today, 15 years later.
Hmm.
I have better answers. I've learned a lot more, but it is interesting. I think that's crazy how, no matter what stage in business you are, it's never easy.
Right. My
And that's
only,
kind of the thing that for me, that's the driver. It's like, the challenge,
yeah,
like challenge accepted, let's go for it. But it never gets easier.
I love it. And I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of those lessons. Like you said, you've gotten smarter, made smarter decisions, and there's a lot of good input you have and lessons you can probably give us with it. My only one dumb question, I'm good for at least one dumb question each podcast episode, is do you have any of the t-shirts left, either from that original St. Patty's Day drop or from the t-shirt company?
Um, I don't have any of the original St. Patty's Day one. I mean, those were, I remember what one looked like.
Okay.
It was real bad, real cheesy.
Okay.
But immediately after that, I created my own clothing brand,
Yeah.
and then that was kind of a cheesy brand, and I turned it into a really good brand. And I
Okay.
still have the first batch
Okay.
of that brand. Yeah, because what happened was, is again, learning experience. Came out the gate with 20 designs, 10 of them sold out. The other 10 sold nothing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really source my designs before I printed it. I just said, I love all 20, let's go for it.
Yeah.
But I didn't source it. If I did source it, I would have been like, wow, 10 of these are hot and 10 of them aren't. I should have just bought twice of the hot ones.
Right.
So yeah, I do still have some original t-shirts from
Okay.
what I consider the real first business.
Sure. Unfortunately, probably not those 10 best sellers because those were on other people's backs, which is a bit of
No, and those are the cool ones. So I don't have
yeah.
the good ones. The good ones are gone.
That's awesome.
Maybe
All right.
they're in what is it, like a Salvation Army somewhere by now. I mean,
Sure.
that's 15
Yeah.
years. They're probably hanging somewhere.
Imagine if you ever just came across one at a Goodwill or something like that, or even
That would
better.
be funny. Going to a Goodwill, see my own T-shirt.
Yeah. Hey, at least somebody, I mean, it was good quality and
I'm
somebody
gonna put that in my
appreciated it.
mind now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
Manifest.
make it happen.
Right. I love it. Awesome. So, told us a little bit about the story. Outlaunch starts in 2011, correct?
Yes.
And started as just web design and then kind of pivoted to be everything that it is today. Take us through a little bit of the high level story, starting with web design. At what point did you realize you needed to pivot? What kind of went into that pivot and everything Outlaunch, if you will?
Well, let me, I'll get into that, and it kind of is going to complete my original story because, I kind of forgot this last step.
Sure.
So, I started this web design company, and I was just selling websites myself. And I walk into this magazine and I'm like, wow, these guys are making like, 10 million a year, and I'm barely selling websites. And they offered me a job when I tried to sell them a website. So I was like, maybe I can learn from them. So for a few years, I was like, I'm going to learn from these guys.
Sure.
So I basically was running a print department in their magazine, and I tried to introduce web design. I was like, hey, everyone that sells a print ad should go to their website. And they weren't really feeling it at first and whatnot. And, so I decided I had learned enough from being there for a few years. They had a whole team of sales reps, and I left. I just said, hey, I'm going to start my own thing again. And I went to all the sales reps and I said, hey, we're not competing because you have a thing to sell, but after you're done selling it, let them know, hey, that website, that needs to go to a website, that ad, and start mentioning me. So I kicked my business off the ground by getting referrals from the sales
Sure.
reps on the magazine deal. So now 2011 is when all that happened, whenever I started that company. And that's how I started it off the ground, was getting the reps, but basically contacts that I knew,
Hmm.
who were connected and said, "Hey, toss me stuff if you can." They're tossing me stuff, and I'm making started off slowly, but made some cool sales. We started out the gate as artists who were going to make really cool websites. So that was kind of our pitch: is our website is going to, you know, really be more unique than anyone else and
Yeah.
really cool. And it really was. Whenever we made a website, I remember we had this lawyer's website, and it was his office, and it had his desk, and you rolled over like items on the desk, and things kind of shifted and moved and would click to different pages. It was really cool at the time, and people liked it a lot. So we were started selling those websites, and then all of a sudden, the same thing just kept happening. And I was like, hey, this company's going to get me to the top of Google, and they'd give me a free website. So it was like, what am I supposed to sell against that?
Yeah.
Hey, our websites are cooler, yeah, but they're going to get me business in Google,
Right.
and do their website for free. So unfortunately, it's been like this for about 15 years, or I don't know, that was probably about a year or so in the 14, 13 years where people
Okay.
really don't value websites.
Sure.
Everyone gives them away for like free in, trading for other things.
Hmm.
You know, come on, do my marketing with me. And the website just becomes a thing that is no value. So that's a fight that I've been battling with. But that's kind of how we got started in transition from web to SEO.
Interesting. That's way quicker, to be honest with you, than I would have expected. 15 years ago, I would have thought websites were, a major thing, and obviously SEO kind of rules the world right now in the industries that we're in. But that's quick. I didn't realize SEO has been around for that long, and so buzzy. But I'm surprised by 14, 15 years it was around then.
Without I could say this about myself too, but without bad mouth or smashing any business owner out
Yeah.
there, we're all pretty behind. Um, you know, People come to me, talking about SEO, and it's like, again, the SEO train has been off the track, or left the station
Hmm.
long time ago. We need to be on the AI train now. This is
Yeah.
a whole new train, and I'm starting to see this myself too, because I was a slow adapter. Like we got into SEO because we were forced to,
Hmm.
but luckily we kind of were forced to early on.
Hmm.
And I remember back then, my brother and I, who's my business partner, we would look and be like, one day more people are going to come to the website from the phone than they are the desktop. And it was one of those things. It was like, I wonder when that's going to happen. And then sure enough, it happened. But it wasn't maybe about 5 years ago, 5 years ago, it really took over. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it wasn't back then. It was definitely desktop first.
Hmm.
Now, when we go to our customers, it's like 60-40 mobile first.
Sure.
My point being is these things that we see coming come faster than we think. And oftentimes, when we're a business owner who's not in the digital world or the marketing world, we're actually coming in late to the game.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of people, started thinking about mobile websites later than they should have.
Hmm.
They started thinking about SEO later than they should have. And I guarantee you, they're going to think about AI later than they should. And I'm talking about just everyday business owners who don't think about this stuff. They're out doing plumbing and HVAC and construction and whatever that is that they're doing. The last thing they're thinking about is AI, but they're probably going home and talking to ChatGPT about some health condition they're trying to figure out. It's their new doctor. It's my
Been
new
there.
doctor.
Been there myself. Guilty as charged for that one. You mentioned it, and I realize now I probably didn't do a good job of introing Outlaunch. Primarily, you guys work with service businesses, which is why you're a perfect guest for being on the show. Uh, and was that something you started right away with? I know you're talking about you've worked with law firms doing websites and things like that. Was that a natural fit, something that happened pretty quickly working with service businesses, or was there a pivot at some point that got you into it?
I think it's at first a few things were coming to us. It was a lot of home service, like landscaping. In particular, it was like landscaping and outdoor construction type, outdoor patios, pool construction, that kind of stuff, which then started slipping into some, HVAC and stuff. But it was also a combination of like med spas and chiropractors type deal.
Sure.
And I think after a while, it just started driving more home service, and we started seeing seeing good results with that. And we actually liked building those websites better
Hmm.
personally. Now we can do any kind of website, and we do extend beyond just home service, but home service is what we promote. It's our niche. If something comes our way and we can get a ranking and get a business, then we'll work with
Hmm.
it. But it's my brother and me, and at the beginning we were building the sites, and we were building like these like med spa sites with like pink colors and
Hmm.
stuff like that. We're like, it's just kind of more fun building this construction site for us personally.
Yeah.
Now we've got a lot more females on our team now, and I'm sure that they would rather be building, who knows what they would do. I don't want to put any words in anyone's mouth, but everyone has their preference when they're building websites,
Yeah.
what they want to build. But we end up just kind of getting more of it, liking it more, and finding that it's needed more. And one of the reasons why would be a lot of home service people don't have an office in like the center of town on Main Street.
Hmm.
So whenever you think about how am I going to find a home service company, the first thing that comes to mind is probably if I know someone, I'm going to ask them. Secondly, if I don't know someone, I'm going to search it. Or I see the vans driving by,
Hmm.
that's about it. So unless you're putting yourself out there in the vans and the billboards and, radio ads and stuff, it's either I'm getting on like social media and asking like, do you guys know someone? Or I'm going to search and I'm saying whatever near me,
Hmm.
plumber near me. Um, not that they're not doing that with dentists and med spas and stuff like that too, but I drive by a lot more dentists and med spas when I'm driving around town than I do
Right.
home service companies.
100%.
So,
Yeah, that front door really is oftentimes their website, and that, is the front door, but there's a lot of other marketing things that go into it behind that, which obviously we'll get into a little bit. So you
which
mentioned,
brings me to say, just to touch on that one more
yeah.
time, a lot of home service people who can get an office space. I get it if you're officing out of your house. That I mean, I understand that completely. But when you are able to purchase an office space, I have customers who they don't consult me first, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I just got this new office." But in order to get the bigger office at the cheaper price, they got it way outside of town.
Hmm.
So now their Google map is farther away from where their customer base is. And I'm like, man, now don't just do it based on the size of the city, but if you have a customer base in an area,
Hmm.
it's nice to get your office as close to that customer base as
Yeah.
possible, because when they do a Google search, then you want to be the one who shows up. Proximity is considered,
Yeah.
whenever they're doing that. So you get the furthest place out of town on that old country road
Yeah.
because it's whatever, but now you're further away on your Google map.
Interesting. Something I had never thought of, and that goes into a lot of that SEO and some of those things. Uh, and we'll jump into SEO in general because I think it is something that is so buzzy. People love talking about SEO, but I think a lot of people don't understand it completely. Before we get there, I want to just make sure we cover the basis for the listeners. Just general size of businesses you work with, and covering all the industries. Primarily service businesses. I think you mentioned HVAC, plumbing. Are there others I'm missing?
I would say home service and construction is our main deal. So,
Okay.
it goes for all home service.
Okay.
Now, the top, you've kind of got these top three: HVAC, plumbing, and electrical when it
Okay.
comes to the service side. And then you've got this like other top three on the construction side, which is kind of roofing, restoration, remodeling.
Sure.
But then you've got all of these in between. You got your pest control, you got your house cleaning, you got your custom pool builders, your landscapers, your home builders, even. And we'll work with construction, commercial construction too. But the other thing that we really do well with is B2B. So
Okay.
business to business companies. We actually probably do just as well with them. I don't know why we don't talk about it as much, but people like project to payment, wrap companies, other marketing companies. We actually work with a lot of people who are marketing or vendors, B2B vendors for home service.
Sure.
So, these home service companies, they need CPAs, they need softwares, they need vehicle wraps, they need other forms of marketing.
Hmm.
And those other companies also need SEO and marketing
Right.
and websites too. So we actually do great with B2B.
That's very cool. So not only do you have experience and understanding of home service marketing, but you also have almost that layer above in home service marketing, um, B2B and those types of things, which makes you a perfect person to pick the mind of as we get into some of these things. Uh, as we kick off, just more specifically talking about marketing, I'm curious to ask this question because marketing is huge. There's a lot of pieces of it. There's a lot we can get into. If you were to pick one thing, and maybe we can pick a couple things that you spend a majority of your time on with home service companies in marketing, what are those few things that people need the most help with?
You know, if I really go back to the root of a lot of issues that I think are out there, this is kind of our company Outlaunch has been making a small shift. We're still SEO, AI, pay-per-click focused, digital marketing focused. But over the 15 years, we have become the go-to for marketing questions, branding questions in general. So what I've noticed, to answer your question specifically, is a lot of businesses don't really just have full clarity on what the results are, so it becomes where it's like, oh, I paid this company for some SEO. I'm going to literally just say the exact words I hear consistently. I paid this company, I paid that company for SEO. I think it was working. I couldn't tell. It didn't work. It's very much always like, I can't tell, I think, or clearly like it didn't work. I paid multiple companies for pay-per-click, and then they'll just all of a sudden pay-per-click doesn't work. So everyone has come to me at some point and said, pay-per-click doesn't work. Facebook ads don't work. SEO doesn't work. Basically, nothing works except for referrals. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously that's not true, because if referrals only was, and I get it. So I'm not trying to, because marketing is difficult. But I also say this: if you could run your business on a referral only business, how come Amazon and Apple put so much money into their ads? Because I'm pretty sure they have cult followings. I mean, they have so many referrals. I mean, Apple itself it used to be like, I don't know, it still is like a cult following. You're either an Apple or you're an Android, and for the longest time, it was like some people are Apples just because, or some people are Androids just because they didn't want to be the cult of Apple, and Amazon, like, maybe not now, but I remember Amazon. I used to be like, man, you could get a package in 24 hours. Like you're telling everyone like, man, oh.
Yeah.
So these companies that deliver these products that we love, and we share them with everyone, like, oh, I got the new iPhone this, or, like, did you know that package can get there in the same day? Like they're soliciting referrals, yet these huge companies are putting massive amounts into marketing. It's not because they're trying to waste money. Trust me, they don't want to waste money. If they didn't want to put it in the marketing, they would put it back into their own pockets, 100%. So my answer to that is, if you have a referral only business currently, then that does show me, number one, that you have a good product. So if you're actually in business without marketing and it's referrals, then that is step one. It's the best thing, because that means you have a great thing that you're offering, because you can market all day long a piece of junk. But if you're getting referrals, then you don't have a piece of junk. You have something good. So that is step one. Don't get me wrong. Step two is, how do you get more people in so that they can refer more? So if you're a referral only business, then how are you predicting next month? How are you predicting next year? Like, is it one referral a month? Is it some months you get 5, some you get 0? There's no way to like truly gauge and measure that and predict that. You can't say I'm gonna 10x my business, 2x, 10% growth yearly on a referral only business, because it's all just random. If you can market and pull in leads, then what's the other thing to that? There's two things. So one, now you can predict growth, a little bit better.
Yeah.
And measure that growth. Two, you now have more people who will be referrals. So now you've got 5 new people a month. That's 5 new referrals if you did good. If you can get that to 10, that's 10 new referrals. It just compounds. That's why these businesses go like that. So, see if I actually answered your question correctly, but I find that a lot of people don't know what's working. Um, and can't figure out how to get it to work. And
Hmm.
that's the name of the game. If we all knew how to figure it out, then we'd all be like, multimillionaires. But the hardest part for business owners, in my opinion, is, am I choosing the right vendor? Am I picking the right channel to put my money in? I only have a little bit of money that I can spend. Should it be Facebook? Should it be Google? I've tried it 10 times before. It didn't work.
Hmm.
And I think that's the biggest struggle. So what we try to do is we try to really go down deep on the understanding of what's really working, the metrics.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are very surface level. I think it's like, oh, you got this many clicks, and then my little tag triggered a conversion because they filled out your form. So you got 100 clicks and 30 conversions.
Hmm.
You're killing it. But then you talk to the owner, and the owner's like, I don't know, I don't have 30 sales.
Right.
What are you talking about? So we understand that from clicks to conversions now comes like the sales process. Was that actually like a quality lead? Where are they in your pipeline? Are they someone that is going to purchase now, 6 months from now? Are we following up with them? Did that lead come from this source or that source? Did the good ones that you're closing, what source did they come from? So I think one of the most important things is to understand what's really working all the way down to the sales level.
Hmm.
It's not always the marketing person too. You know how many people we drive leads and they don't answer their phone, and then they call me and they say, I need more leads. I'm like, well, there's like 20 leads, you didn't answer the phone. So we're like, why do you need more? I think you need to answer your phone. So, and I get that that's a problem. Again, these are small businesses with a
Hmm.
few people on staff. So I'm not even knocking that. But my point is it's not always the lead generation. And there's so much in between that to the sale that you have to understand. And the key is to really understand every aspect of it so you can make proper decisions.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not always the marketing channel too. I bet you there's some people out there who are doing pretty good SEO for a company who might have left, but maybe they just didn't have the expectations correctly or weren't really, you know, um, given the proper data to know what's happening. Maybe they were 6 months out from getting the website to the top, and maybe they couldn't write it out. But that doesn't mean that the SEO company was doing a bad job.
Yeah.
SEO is a whole different ballgame. So I think understanding the results is a lot more than just you got this amount of clicks and it triggered X amount of conversions. And I think the clarity is what's the hardest to figure out.
Sure. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And something about marketing, it feels like it's discussed often. Like it's seems maybe more simple to business owners than the financial side of things for whatever reason. How do you guys go about helping them get to that point of clarity? Is it a meeting right away that reviews what you're doing and kind of get a state of the state, or what does step one look like from understanding so you can take that pivot then and start to actually put things in action?
You know, there's been certain parts of our business where we were just the SEO guy who was delivering the report. For years, that's kind of, we were that. We were doing great SEO, so it's not like we were doing bad SEO. We were doing everything that we were sold and delivered. But we also were stuck in that mindset where it was like, hey, your rankings are moving up, your traffic's moving up, things are going great.
Hmm.
And it became to this point where we listened to our customers and we listened to their frustrations. And when they were saying, yeah, but my revenue's not growing or my calls don't seem to be up, that we started like trying to dig deeper. And that's when we got certain call tracking software that we've implemented. And now it's to a point where even the call tracking software is still not enough. We need to go into your CRM and look at your sales cycle. So to answer your question, how do we get there? I think the reason we get there is because we're not afraid of uncomfortable situations.
Sure.
In business and marketing is not comfortable all the time.
Hmm.
In fact, it's not comfortable most of the time, unfortunately.
Sure.
Um, it has comfortable stages where you hit it, you get it right, and you're killing it, and it's great. But nothing lasts forever, and sometimes it's like being at the casino and you run, goes out and you have to try to get on a new run. So you could do great marketing or SEO for a company for 2 years and then hit a bad economy, and maybe you're doing your best, but all of a sudden you're to blame for everything. And I'm not trying to whatever with my little violin, but the point is that we're not afraid to be uncomfortable, and we're not afraid of that transparency. So I think whereas a lot of companies hide from customer service and hide from real reports.
Mm-hmm.
So with most, I don't want to say most, but what I've seen out there a lot is that there's a lot of superficial reports or trying to fluff up reports and try to say things are going good when they're not necessarily. And there's also a lot of people that don't like to answer the phone if they know something's not working well. We answer the phone if it's not working well just as fast as we answer the phone if it is working well. If a bad report is a bad report, it goes out the same as a good report. And that doesn't always make us feel wonderful, but the reality is the reality. This is the business we're in, and we have to now face the customer with this so we can come up with a plan together. Mm-hmm. So I think the key here is not always trying to be perfect and hide from bad results. The key here is we're in this together to try to do our best. So if we're in it together to do our best, then when it's going great, we're close. When it's going bad, we're closer. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that, and again, we haven't always been perfect with that either, but that's what we're trying to even continually be perfect at. But we have always had really great service, and we have always been transparent. So I read a quote once that said, fail gracefully is better than, like something, whatever. But either way, forgot the quote now that I'm thinking about it. But if you're going to fail gracefully. So no matter what happens in our business, we're just trying our best to do the best every bit of the way, even when the best is really hard, and we don't run from that. Perfect. We embrace it.
I appreciate that. So understanding is obviously a huge piece of it. Say somebody comes to you completely fresh. Maybe it's that example of a service business who is completely operating just on word of mouth. What are some of the first things, maybe call them marketing foundational aspects or whatever you want to refer to it as? What are some of the first steps into marketing a service business should take?
So I guess I would ask a question with, what does fresh mean? Does fresh mean a brand new business and never doing marketing? Or does fresh mean someone who's had a business for a while, they've been successful on referrals and not done marketing? Because I would approach both of those differently.
Let's do both then. Let's start with a brand new business. Somebody's watching this. They're going to kick it off, or maybe they kicked off last week and they're looking for tips on what step one looks like.
A brand new business means it's time to get guerrilla style with it and not invest all your money in a bunch of marketing. Mm-hmm. What I would do for a brand new business is I would make sure that I have a good website that at least represents what represents my brand, what I'm trying to sell. I would not put any money into SEO. SEO is a longer game, and you're going to waste your money in the first year on something that's not going to give you a return when that money could go like much better places. So for the first year for a brand new business, it's all about what I said a second ago when I said you have to have a great product and service that's gaining referrals before you can even so it doesn't mean don't market. It just means you need to really have something great that you're offering, and you need to be able to deliver on that. But at this point, it's time to just hit the contact list in your phone of people jump on the social media, and it's just output. So that means if I'm going to do 100 messages on social media a day, or 100 calls to people who are in my contact, or going to my LinkedIn of people that I already know and reaching out to them, and going out to networking groups in the middle of town, just doing everything to get yourself in front of as many people that you already know, because they're the warmest people. And you don't have to sell them, but hey, just get excited. The way that my business grew was twofold. One, I was so excited that there's no way you weren't going to hear about it. Even when I'm talking to servers at restaurants, I'm like, oh my God, a server I don't know. I'm so excited. I got a web design company. Not like you're going to buy it. I'm not trying to sell you. So you
Hmm.
don't have to sell everyone.
Yeah.
You're just excited and you're sharing the news. Spread it out on Facebook, spread it out with your friends. Let them know about this new thing you're doing, not to sell them, but to just get them as excited about it as you, because they probably know someone. And when the time comes up, they'll remember you and they'll remember how excited you are. And like that energy just, so in the beginning, I think it's just very guerrilla. Put yourself out there as excited as you can about what you're doing. If you have money to put in any places, I would put that to getting a good website that represents you. I would get it to make sure that if you are out in front of people, you don't look like junk or whatever. You look
Yeah.
like you can represent yourself, but don't waste your money on a bunch of just gear either. A bunch of fluff promo gear. And contact the people you know. Don't waste it on SEO. Anyone with a brand new business, you don't waste it on SEO. But get a good website.
And that actually leads me to my next question. What are the aspects of a good website for a service business? Because I've seen two sides of it. I've seen the very simplified, and it has an about us and it has a contact us link. And I've also seen websites with blogs, pictures, you name it, all sorts of different places. Is there a sweet spot? Is there one that's better? What does an optimal service business website look like?
So I'm gonna see. This will be a long answer probably. So
All right, I'm buckling it. I'm buckling in. I'm
okay.
ready.
I don't want to think just about SEO right now. I want to think about AI as well.
Okay.
Because whenever you rank in AI or you get a mention, it's not a rank, it's a mention. So if you go to AI and start asking like, what is the best company around me that offers this, and this? When you go to AI, you talk to it a lot differently than Google. Google is like something near me. AI is like, what is the top company near me who has the highest ratings, and how do I know I'm choosing the right one?
Hmm.
You know, um, in order to rank or be mentioned in AI, one of the key fundamentals is a strong SEO foundation. So the reason I want to talk about AI is because if you can be in AI, then that means you have solid SEO.
Okay.
And what is solid SEO and how does that relate to your website? So I'll paint the full picture. Nothing in AI is just stored like it's not just AI is a software, it's a large language model, it's a learning machine that's referencing everything and what you're feeding it and learning from it. So Google is actually taking everything on the web and ranking it, in order based on your search. AI is gathering everything it can, trying to find context from your question, and then not only give you an answer, but also offer multiple sources right then. So the key here is that it's all being pulled from content on the internet.
Hmm.
So if you want to have the best website, you want to be an AI, you want to have good SEO, it all comes down to great content that represents your company. And this is where everyone gets it wrong. They hire SEO companies who write content about them, and they never even give the SEO company anything really about them that's unique. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you get this amazing site because you work with this great company and they can really pull it out of you. You've got your story on there. You've got in depth of how you do the service, not the way the other everyone does a service.
Hmm.
But most websites, they're all just the same thing, just with a different logo. If you can go to 10 HVAC websites and just change the logo and nothing looks different, then you did it wrong. Um, you need if you it doesn't matter if you're an HVAC roof or whatever, and there's hundreds of you. You do your business a specific way with specific values, specific methodology, specific experience, specific expertise, and that is what has to come through in the content of your site. Because if you were to go talk to Google, because Google doesn't tell you how to rank a site, it does tell you, it does tell you more or less, what they're looking for, but it doesn't give you like this very specific, like if you do this, you're going to be at the top. The algorithm decides the top. Google always says the same thing. If you have a lot of backlinks, that doesn't mean you're going to be at the top. If you have more pages, that doesn't mean you're going to be at the top. They always say the same thing. If your content follows it's relevant to what you're doing, and it's what they call EEAT, experience, expertise. I don't know if that's the right order, but experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So when you're building a website, it's not about the size. Of course, a bigger site's probably going to do better than a smaller one, maybe. But again, Google will say that's not true. I don't know. It's about, is this company actually delivering relevant content that is unique, and it shows expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And the sites that can accomplish that are the ones that are going to do the best in Google, most likely. And most people, I think, miss that mark because they hire an agency, and that agency is going to go to ChatGPT. Now they are. Before they weren't. And ChatGPT is a great thing. I'm on ChatGPT every day. But they're going to go in there and they're going to plug in air conditioning repair service. Give me 1,000 words. ChatGPT is going to give them 1,000 words. It's going to give them the same, not the same exact, but it's going to be the same regurgitated junk that's on every other website. Now, if you're an HVAC company and you have a certain methodology, it's like, okay, well, when I go in there, I'm going to go in there and do this. I'm going to make sure that this is checked. I've had so many experiences that I've done this. When I was at a customer once, I noticed this, and then this happened, and I had to resolve it this way. So you start giving real personal details. For instance, I was at this roofer once, and I was sitting down with this roofer, and I was like, what makes you different? And the first thing he said is, he's like, we lay plastic tarps down in the entire yard so that when every nail falls off the roof, it's caught and nothing gets in the ground. And at the end of the day, we roll it up. I haven't had anyone else tell me that they do that. Maybe more people do it now, but I was like, that truly is unique. That's a piece of content that you put on. That's a methodology, a way you do things. You know how many websites don't have the owner's images or the team images? There's no story on the website. It's just, you go to the about page, and the about page is, we do HVAC.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing that bothers me the most, and it's going to drive a lot of people crazy. So I'm sorry if this is all over your website or this is your sales method, because, again, I'm sorry if it's triggering, but honesty and integrity mean nothing to people. Okay. What is honesty and integrity? We're honest integrity. You know what? The last 10 HVAC guys I talked to all said honesty, integrity. What does that mean? And how do I know it's true? So instead of saying honesty and integrity, talk about the things you do that represent honesty and integrity. We're honest. We, XYZ, do this. We have integrity because of XYZ here. And I think that's again, the long way to answer your question. The first thing I worry about mostly with a website is that everything on it represents what I do and who we are, the values we are, the services we offer, but not surface level. In depth based on your processes, and in depth based on your experience. And then I'm going to flip it real quick. There is a technical side of things too. And this is where your SEO agency comes in. On a technical side, you don't want to have a bunch of you don't want to have 100 pages on your site, but only 4 of them are accessed, and you got 96 hidden pages called orphan pages. That's not good. So there's technical things where you don't want to have hidden pages. You want to be linking from other websites. You don't want to have no links from other sources. You want to internally link. So your pages on your site need to internally link to each other. It's amazing how many times you just have all these pages that all just go to one page, but they don't link to each other. So you have one blog, you have 100 blog posts, but 100 blog posts aren't linking to anywhere but that one blog. Instead of feeding them to other pages. You want to have what's called schema. Schema is like one of the most important things for AI. It is always important for SEO, but now it's like one of the most important things for AI. If you have press releases out there that have your brand written in those press releases, those are called brand mentions that get found in AI. If you have proper keywords that represent each page, then you don't even have to go crazy anymore. It used to be you wanted to pick the right exact keyword. Now it's just like you just want to make sure the page represents the keyword pretty closely, because Google's going to know variations of that. So if you're a company in Atlanta, then if you type roofer Atlanta, roofing company Atlanta, you know, roofing Atlanta, Google knows that all that's the same. So might not pick the best one or the most searched one, but it's all going to work. So my point being is that you want some technical stuff to kind of make it all work on the back end, which is extremely important for AI that's going to be looking at your site too, and fundamentally important for Google. But in the end, it all, like, content trumps everything, in my opinion, because content's what the user reads, and the user is the one making the decision. And if I'm picking 3 HVAC companies, I keep saying HVAC, but if I pick at 3 HVAC companies and I go to, it doesn't matter to me necessarily if I go to a site that's 5 pages or 100 pages. If this one's giving me a better message and a better feeling of trust and a better feeling of these people are going to deliver on their promises, and this one is not giving me that feeling, then the customer, again, doesn't care the size of the site and all the technical junk. As long as they can access the content and get the answers they need, they're looking for something that's going to make them feel trust. So that's the people that I want to choose. So I think ultimately that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build trust in our consumer, and have them pick us because we're the ones that are the experts and we're the authority and, you know, the authoritative in the business.